Okay, in this video we're going to talk through how to approach Edexcel English Language, Paper 1, Question 4. To do that, we'll look at extracts from a couple of student responses to a set question, so don't be afraid to pause the video at any point if you need time to read through what's on screen. Okay, let's get started. Before you begin to answer the question, the best thing to do is to reread or skim through the whole text with the question in mind. A good thing to remember here is that question 4 on paper 1 examines assessment objective 4. That's your ability to evaluate texts critically, which means making judgments about how well a writer achieves their intentions. Keep that in mind as you reread the text. Now let's look at the question. In this case, it's, in this extract, there is an attempt to show Dantes as an interesting character. Evaluate how successfully this has been achieved. Remember, this question is marked out of 15, and the mark scheme is split into 5 different levels. Let's take a look at part of Student A's response to this question first. Press pause now to give yourself time to read it through, then press play again when you're ready. This student has achieved a level 3 overall. In this part of the response, they've made a number of links to the question and used some language that shows that they're making a judgment. For example, the student explains that by calling Dantes a victim, the writer clearly creates a sense of sympathy for the character, which makes the reader feel more positive about him and intrigued by what has happened to him. They then go on to develop their point by saying that the impression of Dantes as an interesting and intriguing character is also shown through another part of the text. So by building up the points, the student is showing that they're making an informed judgment. However, if the student had gone on to say why a device was particularly important, this would have helped push the response up. For example, let's look at this section of their answer again. If the student had added the additional sentence shown here, it would have helped to boost their answer. This is because it's more evaluative and critical about the way the writer has used these ideas. It begins to explore why a specific detail is so effective, sharpening the levels of judgment about how well the writer has made Dantes seem like an interesting man. It shows a genuine understanding of the text, which is why it's important to read the text carefully. Now let's look at an extract from Student B's response and see how it differs. Press pause now to give yourself time to read through carefully, and press play again when you're finished. Okay, this response is at level 5. As you can see, the student talks about how the good qualities of Dantes' character are interesting using multiple examples from across the whole text. With question 4, you should consider how ideas work together rather than looking at specific bits on their own. The student then goes on to offer an evaluation of how 2 main ideas from the text, the long wait Dantes has experienced and his excitement to discover the treasure, work together to create the impression of an interesting character to the reader. The critical evaluation of the text is more sophisticated in this response, as shown by the student's use of language such as subtly implied and deftly revealing. They also have sentences which consider more than one idea, using words such as although to frame their points. Finally, there are direct quotations and lots of references embedded throughout the response, showing that the student has carefully read and fully understood the extract. So using all of these approaches can really boost your marks. Let's leave it there. Hopefully you can see the difference between the 2 responses. Our top tips for this question are: think about how ideas work together across the whole text rather than looking at bits in isolation. Consider why particular details are effective, and include quotations and references from the text throughout your response. It's a great idea to get some practice in before the exam, so why not try some past papers and see how you do with AO4? You could take a look over the question and text in our example paper attached to this pod. Good luck.